Hey, thanks for joining me for another episode of the Full Frontal Living podcast. And I've got a really cool guest on today talking about one of my favorite subjects, which is sleep, rest, restoration, all the things that we need to really be able to perform at our best. As you probably heard me say, if you've been listening to the podcast for some time now, is that rest is an actual success strategy. It allows us to perform better. But I'm sure you're tired of hearing me talk about rest, which is why I brought Shawna on, Shawna Robins, because she is actually a sleep expert. So she's going to back up everything I've said on the show, and she's going to give us powerful new wisdom. She also has an amazing book out called Powerful Sleep, which I will put in the show notes for you to check out after the episode. But Shawna, I would love it if you could introduce yourself to everybody, give them a little bit of your bio and background, and share with them, I already know this story, but share with them how you got into sleep as being such an important part of your work.
Well, thanks for having me, Lisa. It's great to be
You're
here.
welcome.
My background, let's see. I'm a best-selling author. You have a copy of my book. I have another book too called Irresistibly Healthy: Simple Strategies to live better, be healthy, and be vibrant, especially in midlife, which is a really important thing. And I'm really glad we're talking about this because many, many women that I coach with really struggle with sleep, especially as they hit perimenopause and menopause. So that's usually one of the first indications they're even in perimenopause and on their way to menopause, is because their sleep just like disappears overnight. But yeah, I went to, the story that I share in my book is the story of my father, who was a very successful entrepreneur, CEO, would build and sell companies. He was really just, my complete North Star. And I was working with him in his public relations department and his marketing department of his final company that he was able to create. When he called me into his office one day and asked me if I could look over his emails, because he said that they didn't look right. And that was kind of odd behavior, but I was like, sure, Dad, no problem. So I came up to his big office, top floor, beautiful view in downtown LA. And I sat down and I looked at his email and I said, it looks good, Dad. What's happening? And he said, I just can't remember how things are spelled anymore. And I said, how long has this been going on for? And he said, I don't know, a couple of months. And he just was so exhausted. And I said, Dad, how often do you sleep? Like, what do you sleep at night? And he said, on a good night, I'll get 3 hours. Oh. And I was like, since when? I had no idea, because he was always the Energizer Bunny, CEO of these companies. He was, he was just full of energy, life of the party, always had a story, he was meeting with VCs. It was like, he was so capable. And at this point in time, he was maybe a little bit under 60, maybe he was like 58, 59 years old. And so in my mind, he was crushing it, right? All the time. And I said, Dad, how long has this been going on for? He's like, a long time. And I said, well, what do you do? And he said, well, I get in bed, my head hits the pillow and I'm out. But I wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning. I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I can't get back to sleep. And I stay up all night long. So I grab my phone and I start doing emails. I get up, I read a book, I wander around, because it's better than just laying there. I might as well just be productive. And I hear this a lot from the women that I coach with, similar things. They fall asleep, but then they can't stay asleep. Mm-hmm. So this pattern of chronic exhaustion. Basically, fast forward about 2 years, my father started to lose his language skills, his ability to speak, his ability to read. We had him cognitively tested. First, we had a CT scan. We thought maybe he had a brain tumor, no brain tumor. And then we finally had him cognitively tested, and he was already in the mid stages of Alzheimer's. And by that time, he was 62 years old. And we have no family history of early onset. And what the neurologist said to my mother and I, who were in this just devastating doctor's appointment with him, was that this was lifestyle induced. This wasn't Alzheimer's that was brought on by any kind of genetic predisposition. It was his constant cravings for carbs and sugar because he was so exhausted all the time, threw his blood sugar up and down. There was no outlet for stress. There was no, limited amounts of sleep. And so I decided at that point in time, my dad exited and sold the company. And I decided to go back to nutrition school. And instead of being a registered dietitian, I decided to become a health and wellness coach so I could help more people make better lifestyle choices, because your lifestyle choices during the day, that's one of the secret sauces that I teach. The lifestyle choices during the day are what affects your sleep in the evening. And so if you can dial back kind of the reasons why, like unpeel the onion, the reasons why you're not sleeping well at night, typically you can find the roots of that in something that you're doing during the day that you can then augment that and create a better, healthier habit around it. And it's not massive changes to daytime habits. It's just small, powerful ones. And we uncover what those are. We pick some low-hanging fruits, some things that are really easy for people to change. Sometimes it's just one thing that they change that creates a domino effect throughout not only their health, but their life. Because when you're living in that level of exhaustion all the time, like you said, it's a strategy for failure. And as women, we were given the lie that we could have it all. And we bought that lie, hook, line, and sinker. And that's what's destroying us. Women are sicker than men now. More women have autoimmune diseases than men, Alzheimer's and dementia. More women have Alzheimer's and dementia than men. In the United States, it's over 65% of Alzheimer's and dementia patients are women. And so there's all these things. More women have cancer than men. So when you look at that, and when I went back and got my degree in health coaching, I really got to learn about the lifestyle changes that make a huge difference in a woman's and men's, but in a woman's overall well-being. And then you layer on top of that, I did a specialty in hormone health. You layer on top of that the changes that women go through in their hormones throughout their life, and then how that impacts their wellness and how to help them not lose their sleep, not lose their metabolic health, manage their hormones in a way that's really positive to their body, not deal with adrenal burnout like you had mentioned that you had dealt with. So yeah, unfortunately, my father did pass of Alzheimer's, but the plus side to that is that he had 12 great years, and 12 years is a really long time for an Alzheimer's patient to be able to have a good quality of life after that diagnosis. And it was 100% due to the fact that my dad's mindset was so resilient that he was really able to adopt all of these new lifestyle changes that I put him on a diet plan. We changed everything in his life, and he was completely willing to try everything that he could. And there were a lot of great things that he got to experience in that 12 years. And I was so grateful to have that time with him. So I'm really trying to help as many people as I can and offer them as much good quality information as they can get as his legacy to really, continue this on and continue on this good work.
Well, this is exactly why I wanted to have you on the podcast, right? Because I can talk about sleep ad nauseum, right? We can understand how important it is, but it's when you hear a story like this about how it truly can impact your health, because I personally, my grandmother passed away from Alzheimer's. I think it was lifestyle as well, although I was young. But to fully understand that we can be responsible in our lives for our future self. And I can't think of anything worse for me personally than something like Alzheimer's, because to live an extraordinary life, right, and then to die forgetting that you lived that extraordinary life, right, just it really breaks my heart. So your dad's story really touched me. When you're saying, he's 58 years old, well, I just turned 51, right? Like 58 when you're 20, it's like, oh, 58, that's old. And now at 51, I'm like, wow, yeah, 50s is young. I still have half of my life left to live. And we can make so many changes that will impact us now. So even if sleep hasn't been a priority for somebody, they can learn how to make it a priority now. Right. And it's that saying, right? If you don't make time for your wellness, you will make time for your illness. It's very cliche, but it's true. And that's why I wanted to have this conversation. So if you're a crappy sleeper, so if you're a woman and you're a crappy sleeper and you've noticed this. And I love that you brought up that so often this is caused from hormones, and a lot of women don't even recognize that their hormones are starting to shift and that sleep is an indicator. So if you're a shitty sleeper, where do you even start to improve sleep? What normally do people turn to try and help them sleep that aren't really good solutions, versus what kind of better solutions can you offer people?
Well, you know, the easy go-to ones, right, are like the melatonin gummies that you buy over the counter, right? Yeah. And it's such a crime, I think, because not only are women taking these, but then they're giving it to their children and their husbands. And like, melatonin is a hormone. And a lot of people don't realize that. So melatonin is a hormone. And if you start giving your body synthetic forms of melatonin, your body's going to stop making melatonin on its own, because it's no different than when you take the birth control pill and all of a sudden your body stops making estrogen, progesterone, and then you get off the birth control pill and want to get pregnant or whatever. And it's like, it doesn't happen because your hormones are dysregulated. So that when you take melatonin over the counter, first of all, it's not FDA approved. So you have no idea the quality of the melatonin that you're getting. Most of the time, you don't even know how many milligrams you need to take. Right? So you're just guessing, do I do 5? Do I do 3? Do I do 10? It's like, what's on sale? You know, there's no frame of reference on that. So you're either overdosing, underdosing. And then once you start consuming melatonin on a regular basis, your body just stops making it. So the day you run out or whatever, you're like, I don't sleep. Now I sleep worse than I slept before. So it's that, to me, taking melatonin is a complete failure strategy. Your body is hardwired to make melatonin. What you need to do is just understand the things that you need to do during the day that help keep melatonin regulated in the system. And as women age, men as well too, as people age, I should say, your body naturally makes less melatonin. So when I am coaching with women and men who are like 70, 75, 80 plus, there's a different strategy in that age group and in where the body's at that stage than for women that are in their 30s and 40s and 50s, you know? So it's really important that you work with somebody who understands the power of melatonin, and you don't just pop it like it's candy, you know, anytime you think you want to sleep. It's really detrimental to the system. So I would say that's number one. Number two, I wrote a whole chapter on, it's called drugging yourself to sleep. If you go to a doctor and you tell them that you don't sleep well, the first thing they're going to do is give you a prescription for Ambien or a benzodiazepine. And those mimic sleep. That you're not actually asleep because you don't get REM cycles when you're using those drugs. And REM cycles are really important because without REM cycles, your brain doesn't clean itself. And I always talk about how important, that's one of the main reasons why human beings sleep, is for the brain to be able to clean and restore and regenerate itself. And that's why you see that more women than men have Alzheimer's and dementia, because women struggle with sleep more than men do, especially in midlife, because of a hormone change that we all on the planet go through. And so when I liken it to kind of one of those old-fashioned self-cleaning ovens where, you know, you used to be able to flip the switch and walk away and the oven would clean itself in 3 hours, that's what your brain does. So after you hit your first REM cycle, your brain is locked into this clean mode, and it needs 7 straight uninterrupted hours to complete the clean mode. And if it doesn't have 7 straight uninterrupted hours, then all these sticky plaques and tangles, which are in the brain during the evening, to be able to clean it of viruses and pathogens and bacteria that come in during the day through your nose and your eyes and your mouth and your ears, which the body is well equipped to manage this. But if you interrupt this cleaning cycle, so let's say your kid wakes you up, or your pet wakes you up, or your partner is snoring, or light comes in and wakes you up, or you've had a glass or 2 or 3 of wine and your blood sugar goes up and then it drops in the middle of the night and you wake up, those plaques and tangles, sticky tangles, are going to be left over in the brain. And you're going to have a level of brain fog, and being able to focus is going to be harder. Being able to be motivated is going to be harder. The brain is going to be you're not going to have a level of brain clarity. And, you know, you can feel that the next day. You can feel when you're sharp and when you're not. And without that uninterrupted 7 hours, for the brain to do what it needs to do, you're in trouble. So when you drug yourself at night with something synthetic like a benzodiazepine or, Ambien or one of the time-released Ambiens, you're not getting the REM cycles during that session. You're not getting the brain cleaning. So you sleep, quote unquote, but your body's not getting what it needs to stay in a healthy state, and your brain is not getting what it needs.
Wow, that's so fascinating. I'd never, until you talked about that, the brain cleaning itself, I'd never heard that before. And I know a lot of things about sleep. I was like, wow, I did not know that. And the importance of that, and the importance of having that REM sleep. So what are other things people can do during the day then that will impact their quality of sleep in the evening? And we're specifically talking around, people like your dad, women who are, they're busy, they're juggling a lot of balls, they're spinning a lot of plates. They got, we were talking before we hit record, they've got children, multiple ages, they're doing all the things, right? Women, we do have a lot, and we have been sold this story that we can have it all, which I actually believe we can have it all. The caveat is we can't have it all at the same time.
Right. I agree.
What are the things that we can do during the day that are going to support our sleep so that we can perform better during the day, so that we can maintain this high level of wellness and well-being?
So the first thing is just to put your sleep at the top of your priority list, right? For a lot of women, sleep is just like, at the bottom of the list. Like everybody else gets what they need. And, I've been getting away with 5 hours of sleep for years. And I'm tired, and I'm 20 pounds overweight, but I'm just going to keep pushing through. So making sleep the top of your priority list means you don't push through. You actually do things that support your sleep during the day, not just at nighttime. And so the first thing that I always recommend doing is getting morning sunlight. It's really, really important. It's one of the only reasons why I like daylight savings, hate daylight savings, except for you get more sunlight in the morning. Sure, you lose it in the evening. The sun is up earlier.
So just a quick question in there with getting sun in the morning. If you live in a place like I live in Vancouver,
right?
We go into these months where we don't see sun.
Right.
We just see clouds. Is the morning light still as impactful even if there's cloud cover?
Yes, but obviously it's more subdued. It would be better if you had bright sunlight in your eyes. I would rather have you get up and turn the lights on in your kitchen, in your home, in your bathroom, and get light that way. You can even get, they have those vitamin D lights. Those are great too. You can put that on yourself while you're having a cup of coffee in the morning, while you're sitting at your kitchen table or wherever you are. And so just get light in the morning in your eyes. It's so important. 10, 15 minutes every morning. That is going to regulate your sleep-wake cycle almost better than anything you can do. It's really, really powerful change. For me, I'm in California, so obviously it's a little bit easier for me, but I like to just walk outside. Even if I walk my daughter to school, or I just walk out, take the dog outside in the backyard, and I just go, and sometimes it's cold, but I just go out there and just be for a little bit and just let the sunlight, that early morning light just come right into my system. It's one of the most powerful things that you can do. The second most powerful thing that you can do that I recommend to women is to get some exercise every day, during the day, not in the evening, but during the day. If you can take a walk in the morning, if you can take a walk on your lunch break, if you can take a walk before you get home at night, or not even go to the gym, do a HIIT class, do Pilates, whatever it is. I always get that question. Hey, Shawna, what's the best form of exercise for my sleep? And I always say, anything that you love that you can do 5 days a week is the best exercise for your sleep.
I agree.
And because as we change, right? Our bodies change as we get older, our bodies change. And so our exercise needs to shift and change. So there's no right form of exercise for everybody. But you have to love it and be committed to it and have it really just become a part of your life. And you need to do it during the daytime hours. If you exercise at night, you don't get the same benefits for your sleep. Anything, it can interrupt your sleep.
And, I've been talking about that for years because there are a lot of people that like to train in the evening. And especially as an aging woman, I think it's one of the worst things you can do for yourself. So, if that's the only time you can exercise, which I would even still argue with that, because I think it's about prioritizing and moving things around.
That's right.
I've often said, oh, I can't do this. And when I really take a step back and get over my tantrum, because that's usually what it is, I don't want to change my routine.
Right.
There is a way to adjust. But if you're exercising in the evening, you're actually starting to spike up your cortisol levels in the evening when you should be allowing them to decline so that you can sleep. So it's exercising in the evening has always been a no-go for me, but most people don't understand like the science behind that. So I really appreciate you bringing that up. Any other things that they can do?
Well, you just said it, cortisol. That's a huge factor for why women can't sleep. And what happens is that our cortisol levels are supposed to drop in the evening as the sun comes down, and as the day ends, our cortisol levels are supposed to ebb and flow with the sun. But that doesn't happen, right? Because we carry, women carry the emotional load. We are responsible for not only the emotional labor at work, but also the emotional labor at home. And there's all this research now out about the power of emotional labor and the negative impact on our health, mostly heart health for women. And if you don't know what emotional labor is, it's putting on a happy face. And whether that's a customer service agent at work, or having to work one-on-one with clients or customers or bosses or coworkers or spouses or kids, parents, siblings, like whatever you have to do where you have to put on an inauthentic, happy face, creates a level of emotional labor. And emotional labor is incredibly detrimental because it keeps your cortisol levels spiked up for too long of a period of time, over months and years. And that does damage to all different parts of your body. And that's damaging to your sleep, because it's very hard when your body thinks it's running from a bear. It's not going to be able to lay down and turn the brain off and go to sleep. So because our cortisol levels are too high, we develop really unhealthy stress management tools: drinking wine, eating ice cream, binge watching Netflix shows, right? Online shopping, all of these things that we do mostly in the evening that undercut our sleep because we don't have good stress management skills during the day. And so I would say that exercise is a good stress management skill, but you also probably need to come up with other ones as well that you use during the day, whether it's a breathing exercise, a meditation, gratitude journaling, listening to music, even 20 minutes of listening to your favorite calming music, or walking in nature for 20 minutes. Maybe that's during your lunch break. You get your walk and you get your nature time and you get a little sunlight if possible, right? You can kill 3 birds with 1 stone. Right. But it's those are really the 3 biggest factors with daytime habits. And then of course, nutrition. Nutrition is a huge piece of not sleeping well at night.
Yeah, nutrition is a major key.
Yeah.
And I want to dive into that too. I want to dive into all the things, Shawna. So emotional labor, right? The way that I speak about it here on the show is these are the behaviors that you get into to avoid feeling what you're actually feeling, whether it's perfectionism, control, people pleasing, approval seeking. A lot of my clients get into overdoing, right? Being over busy, overprotective, all the overs.
Mm-hmm.
And
sometimes it's a requirement of a job too. Like there are just, women tend to be in positions where they are pleasers. And so they are running teams, or they're in nursing, or they're
However, we can still be in those positions and look at what behaviors that we're getting caught in that are masking emotions that we don't want to feel. So there's often people that are in these really helping professions, nurses, teachers, etc. But it's like the volume has been turned up so loud on those behaviors, it actually defines who they think they are. And that can be adjusted, which will then ease off. So they still get to be pleasers. They still get to be helpers and healers in whatever profession they are. But it's at a place where it's no longer emotional labor for them. They are actually able to show up authentically as opposed to avoiding, because if you're getting into those behaviors during the day, you are going to cope by eating, drinking, shopping, alcohol, or I said drinking already, right? But there's a whole bunch of different coping behaviors that we get into. And I know a lot of women get into wine as a big coping mechanism. And it's been perpetuated. I've noticed this over the past, I don't know how many years. I don't really drink anymore. But this like wine o'clock.
Yes, of course. Rosé all day.
Rosé all day, right? It's how we mom, right? we can only cope with momming by drinking, which is a whole other topic.
And it really peaked during COVID, really peaked. I saw it, where it was just so glorified to, you know, have a glass of wine anytime, right? And COVID was hard for all of us, and I get it. But you should, I mean, the statistics on cancer, there's almost an extra million cancer diagnoses in the United States. It's like 850,000 cancer diagnoses that came through in 2022 due to drinking.
Wow. So lay it out for people. I know you ladies listening aren't really going to love this if you love your wine. I know the impact of wine on our sleep and alcohol in general. Can you spell it out for everybody how alcohol impacts your body and your sleep cycles?
So it's really simple. It disrupts your REM cycles. And it does that because of the blood sugar disruption. So not only does it disrupt your metabolism, right? One of the quickest ways, if you're in midlife, especially, to lose that 5 to 10 pounds is to stop drinking. So it disrupts your metabolism, it disrupts your sleep, which then creates a negative feedback loop. But when you drink, you have, you know, I always tell my clients, if you want to have a glass of wine with dinner, fine, have it with your food, but nothing 3 hours before bedtime. Nothing, no food, no water, no liquids, no tea, nothing, no afternoon or evening drink or a hot toddy or whatever it is, right? Because your blood sugar is going to spike up and your nervous system is depressed because you've had a glass of wine. So you feel relaxed, you feel sleepy, you feel like you can fall asleep. A lot of women use it as a crutch for that, which is true because your nervous system, which has been simmering so high all day, right? Like I said, you can't, if you're running from a bear, you're not going to be able to go to sleep. Your body's like hardwired to do this fight or flight thing all day. So you downshift your nervous system in an unhealthy way, and then you fall asleep, but then that blood sugar drop from whatever drink it is, whether it's wine, whether it's a cocktail, whatever it is, the blood sugar drop happens between 2 a.m. and about 3:30, and you are wide awake and you're laying in your bed with your eyes wide open. And then when you're awake, right, when you're up, all of a sudden the brain is just tossing and turning of everything that you need to do. And what you lay there until, 4:30, 5, 6, and you get up and you go to work and you're exhausted. And every alcohol in the evening especially disrupts every process that needs to happen for the body to unwind and go to sleep and have 5 to 6 REM cycles, and for you to go through all the restorative, regenerative, everything that needs to happen with your heart, with your blood pressure, with your brain, even your immune cells. A lot of women don't realize that the majority of your immune fighter cells are made in your gut only while you sleep. So if you're not sleeping well at night, you're more apt to get sick during the day. You're going to have more illness. I just had a client right now just text me right before our podcast that she's been diagnosed with Hashimoto's. And I'm not surprised. She hasn't slept well for years. And because of that, now her diet has a lot of carbohydrates in it because her body is craving this quick sugar hit to keep her awake, and a lot of afternoon coffees. And the coffees are like Starbucks Frappuccinos, right? So they're loaded with sugar, they're loaded with calories. And now all of a sudden she has Hashimoto's and she's like, this is why I can't lose the 25 pounds that I've been carrying since my last child was born. And I'm like, it's all just this negative feedback loop.
It is such a negative feedback loop, right?
Yeah.
Because you eat crappy to try and keep your brain awake. Yep. Then you don't sleep well. Like it just goes round and round and round.
And then you're stressed during the day and you drink wine at night, which then interrupts your sleep even more, makes things even worse. Oh, and then you can't sleep. So you pop a melatonin, which is making that worse because now your body's not making melatonin. Right. It's just like this whole, so it is a mess, but the good news is you can clean up the mess really, really easily, really easily.
So where do they start?
Like I said, with the low-hanging fruit. If there's anything that we've touched on in this conversation that a woman might think, okay, I can do that. I can do that. That sounds easy to me. I can make that change and I can do it today. I want you to start there. Whether it's doing a meditation, whether it's doing some breath work, whether it's taking 20 minutes and walking around outside and just breathing, or getting some morning light in your eyes, it's like any little thing that you can pick will actually take a huge weight off of what your body is trying to maintain right now, which is total exhaustion.
Right.
It will put a dent in it.
those little habits that you can stack one on top of the other.
That's what it's all about.
You can listen to this podcast. You can pick up Shawna's book. You can write out all these different things that you want to add to your life. You can write another column of all the things that you know needs to go. And you can slowly work your way through the list one at a time once you've established a new habit. And you'll be amazed at where you get to, because I know that, you know, I plan on being on this planet for as long as possible, but that also requires that I be incredibly committed to my rest. That's why I make it such a priority. But I know that, you know, more often than not, I feel like the odd man out, because so many women are caught in this like hustle and grind culture. And they're really, like you said, treating their sleep like an afterthought. You touched on something that I thought was really interesting. And I know you wrote about this in your book as well, how much our gut issue is related to sleep. Can you touch a little bit on that?
Yeah, gut is incredibly important for sleep. In fact, I think in the next 4 to 5 years, we're going to find that gut health is going to be the #1 topic of conversation, not only in the public viewpoint, but also in the medical community, because it's being highly studied right now, especially with things like Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, neurodegenerative diseases. There's a lot of research going on right now looking at gut health as a precursor, as potential problems for neurodegenerative diseases, and also diabetes as well. So this is just kind of, I think, the tip of the iceberg. But, you know, if you don't have a strong digestive system, and when I say strong digestive system, I mean, you know, if you're not having bowel movements every single morning, if you're not eating a lot of fiber, women tend to not drink enough water. That's something that I see all the time. When I coach with women, they're like, well, I had some coffee and some wine. And I'm like, well, none of that includes hydration or water. So yeah, as you and I both pull out our waters, right? And I always tell them, have your body weight in ounces every day. And the response is, well, I can't go to the bathroom that often. I would be going to the bathroom every hour. And I tell them the story of one of my dearest friends who's a chemo nurse. And she is on her feet working 12-hour shifts. And she sees 90 plus patients a day, administering chemo and putting ports in. And she hardly ever drank any water because there was no time in her mind to take a bathroom break. And then she had the first kidney stone and was in the hospital with the first kidney stone. And the doctor was like, you have to consume more liquids. And she's like, okay, I'll try and have 1 glass during the day, just 1 glass. And then 3 weeks later was the second kidney stone. And she was in the hospital for 3 or 4 days. And, you know, for somebody who has had 2 children with natural childbirth, tell me that those were the worst experiences of her life, only because she could have avoided all of that had she just made time for herself to not only drink water, but have a 10-minute bathroom break, just 5-minute bathroom break. Again, it's like, where do we prioritize ourselves and our health? So anyway, this was something that I just feel is so important for women to be able to know, and for me to be able to share, is like, it's just these little things. It's just these little things that build over time. Staying hydrated, getting exercise, watching your stress levels, you know, making sure that you're not drugging yourself with things that are actually impacting your sleep, you know, all of these little things over time. And of course your diet, right? Like not having caffeine too late in the evening, making sure that your diet is limiting on carbs and sugar, and you're getting enough protein and you're getting enough fiber. All of these things impact the gut. And so if you're not moving your body, your gut's not going to move. If you're not drinking enough water, your gut's not going to move. If you're not having enough fiber, your gut's not going to move. And the microbiome that lives in your gut doesn't have the food to be able to live and make the hormones that it needs to make. And if your vagus nerve isn't strong enough, which is the nerve that runs from your brain down to your gut, you're not going to be able to have the hormones that you need, your melatonin, your serotonin, your dopamine, all of those things. Everything is run from the gut to the brain. The gut is your second brain. And when I coach with women, I always tell them, you know, we're so lucky as women because we have amazing instincts. Now, whether we use them or not is a choice, but we're hardwired with this gut response. And it's literally your microbiome telling you who you like, who you don't like, what you need, what you don't need, what kind of foods work with you, what kind of foods don't agree with you. And so many women don't listen to their gut. They don't listen to the brilliance and the wisdom that they have inside their own body. And if you can just start to do that and follow what feels right to you, what feels right in your gut instinct, that's really your microbiome telling you what you need. And if you can listen to that, you will really, really be able to help your body, not only holistically all around, but your sleep as well.
I love this conversation. I could geek out over sleep. So I'm so glad you came on the show. It never ceases to amaze me that women, we are such loving, kind, nurturing. I mean, that's our whole role here, right? We have wombs to like have babies, right? To reproduce so the world can go on. And we spend so much time caring and nurturing for other people. And we spend so little time caring and nurturing our own bodies. And without this body, without your body, without whoever is listening, your body, you don't get to have this life. So you want to see your kids get old. You want to live out your life with your partner. You want to see the world, whatever your hopes and dreams are. They all are dependent on how well you take care of the vehicle that you were given for this time on this planet. And it breaks my heart how many people treat their bodies like this broken down, do you remember Chevy Chevettes, those old cars? Do you remember those? Like a Chevy Chevette instead of like this beautiful Lamborghini or Porsche or whatever. Like we have each been gifted this luxury vehicle. And so many of us treat it like an absolute trash can. And then we wonder why we feel like garbage. And so you can spend all your time nurturing other people, but if you're not spending at least time on yourself every single day, you won't have the privilege of being on this planet to nurture other people. You won't get to live out your purpose or, potential, as women like to talk about. So sleep is it's such a foundational part of our health. And I hope that this conversation really allows people to see how it plays into everything, and every choice you make is about either creating illness or creating wellness for yourself. So on that note, Shawna, what is a parting lesson you would like to leave the listeners with? What is that one thing that you're like, God, if I can get this across the plate, I've done a great job?
I really just want women to know that there is just no one size fits all.
Yeah.
That everybody is bioidentical. Everybody has their own unique set of genetics, lifestyle, location, food that's available to them, resources that are available to them. And because of that, your sleep is going to be very specific to you. So your doctor's not going to be able to understand that. Your girlfriend's not going to be able to understand that. Your mother or your kids or whomever is guiding you and helping you and giving advice. It's really important that you just listen to yourself. It's really important that you turn inward on this. Most women that come to me that have sleep problems, when I ask them, how do you think this happened? They know exactly how it happened and they know exactly how to fix it. What they don't have is accountability and someone to listen and guide them. And so if you can just go inside and ask yourself, what is it that I need to do right now? I know what I need to do. And what type of support do I need in my life to make these changes, whether it's from a spouse or work or whatever it is. And really, advocate for yourself. You are worth it. I mean, it's a stupid Calgon commercial, right? Take me away, or L'Oreal, you're worth it, or whatever. They sell us this concept, but we don't buy it. And instead we buy this, I'll sleep when I'm dead, or everybody needs me, or these other things that are so detrimental. Change the voices in your head, change your priorities, and use yourself, use your own resources that you have. And then if you need help, find an accountability partner. Find someone that you can work with that can help you design a lifestyle that benefits not only your sleep, but your overall well-being. And then you're going to find that as you age, it follows you along. And things will be easier. Menopause will be easier. Sleep will be easier. Aging will be easier. Everything will become easier because you'll know what it is you need and what your body needs. And that will be your number one value.
That was so good. So perfect. So Shawna, where can everybody find you? And we'll make sure that we put everything in the show notes, including your book. Everybody can go and grab a copy of your book, which is an easy place to start.
Yeah.
Right? If you don't know where to start. So where can people find you? Because I know you're on Instagram.
I am on Instagram. Kaya Health Coach is my handle on Instagram. My website, www.shawnarobins.com, and Robins has one B. Everybody always thinks that's two B, but it has one. Yeah. And I offer a free 30-minute consultation on my website. I have my book downloadable for free on my website. You can also get it on Amazon. You can get it on Goodreads, wherever you like to get your books. Yeah. Whatever I can do to help women. I'm on such a mission to help as many women as I can sleep better, feel better, and have a better quality of life as they age.
See, we all need to be out there, all of us wellness warriors. The world needs women to really step into their power. That's another thing, right? Like if we could be well rested, oh my God, the impact that we could actually have. And that's a whole other conversation.
And that is exactly why I named my book Powerful Sleep, because sleep is the source of your true power.
100%. Thank you so much for coming on, Shawna. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate this conversation, and I'm so grateful that we had an opportunity to meet in person.
Yeah, me too.
Connection, and I look forward to having you back on again.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. If it resonated with you, or if you know a woman who needs to hear it, then please make sure you share this episode so that they can get the support and the knowledge that they need to make change in their life. Until next time, I will catch you on the next episode.